All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bootcamp. Oh, wait, I did not change the slide. It's not the fourth Bootcamp. It's like Bootcamp 6. I forgot. But thank you so much for joining us. And, again, this is our second to last planned Bootcamp PowerPoint. So it's ending really soon. But as a recap, our the part 2 of our bootcamp project was due today, and we're dedicating some time to add some comments to review each other's. So if you don't have, or I mean, if you aren't in bootcamp now, then please leave some comments before Thursday if possible. So I think it's recording. Oh, okay, awesome. And yep, I just went over this. So we're gonna kind of repeat the same process again, as in there's anonymous PRDs, and then we just post a good thing and a bad thing to at least 2. And there's one submission that just turned in their part 1, so they only have half the PRD, but everything else is kind of just repeating the same process. So I'm gonna pause the recording real quick. Okay, so recording wise, we just finished reviewing. To everyone who is watching this recording, please leave some comments on the PRDs. PRDs are meant to be readable to like anyone who can access it. So it should be readable to anyone who doesn't have any technical knowledge. So it's really important to get like some fresh eyes on the document and gather some insight on what can be improved, because the nonprofit clients you will be talking with may not have as much of a technical background as you and may be very confused about the overall document. So it's very clear and very important to be as clear and concise as possible. And again, to emphasize, the progress of one's bootcamp project really helps in prioritization of the nonprofit you'll be paired with. So I will be kind of checking up on others who have not, or seeing how like everyone's doing on progress. And yeah, just letting you know, it helps with your priorities for being paired with a nonprofit. So awesome. And I noticed people had some questions about the user journeys. And so I just kind of wanted to go through a little more and provide like an actual example from a Hack for Impact PRD. So user journeys are really meant to help guide the journeys of the user's current struggles of current products. So it shouldn't really be addressing it shouldn't be guiding through what your ideal product should behave. It should really focus on what the current pain point is, what they're currently doing to address that pain point, and kind of detailing why that's so difficult. And then again, their emotion. So in our situation, a lot of our nonprofits tend to rely on Excel sheets, and that can be really overwhelming when they have a ton of data, and it can get kind of unorganized, and there's also a lot of like features of Excel that they kind of like don't know what to do with. So in this one is talking about signing up for volunteering shifts on Excel, but the user's pain point is like she has to manually go through each day as a sheet, and there's trouble indicating that she'll be available for half of the shift. And the touch point is again referring to the Excel experience and how she is directly interacting with that, and how it says she's met with a lot of trouble. She has to go through the text editing, manually change the color, blah blah blah. It's like a lot of extra clicking that she has to do, and overall it's negative. So yeah, just a little recap. Again, please let me know if you have any more questions on these. These can be like a little confusing, and there's a lot of like kind of vocabulary that gets mixed up. But yeah, other than that, everyone's doing a great job so far. So Oh yeah, as the kind of front of the PowerPoint says, we'll be going over OKRs and kind of a strategy of tracking objectives. And this kind of lies under success metrics, which is what we went over with like 2 boot camps ago. And again, success metrics are specific criteria upon which a project will be judged. And it's really specific to each project and the users within it, and kind of what the nonprofit partner is looking for in their MVP. And oops. Okay, so objectives and key results, aka OKRs, are metrics that determine how a team is meeting its objectives. So it is kind of organized in objectives, which is the team's goal, and then the key results of, or kind of like mini steps that are measurable achievements in order to reach that overall big objective. And this is kind of considered a success metric because it's kind of organizing how to evaluate whether or not a team is succeeding, which is different from KPIs, which is how the product is succeeding. So it's a variable, it's also quantifiable, but to reiterate, it's about team goals versus as opposed to product goals. So this is kind of a good skill to have to address like, okay, these are the goals for our team. How can we improve our performance? And it can be done in an organization's level or a team and individual level. And there's also, quarterly versus annually objectives that people tend to do. So there's a lot of industries that use this to kind of navigate team performance. One of the kind of examples I found online is, okay, a company's objective is to become #1 most downloaded app. But how does it achieve this objective? Because it's so big and broad, they have to break it down into key results that they can quantify and focus on to achieve. So in order to become the first #1 app, they have to first conduct surveys to identify the 10 most requested features, conduct user tests, and then show at least 50% improvement with UX. And then the last result is earn 200 5-star ratings. These are all kind of, again, specific to the team, but, notice how they're all like pretty quantifiable, and, it helps break it down, the big step into smaller chunks. And this is an example that, Hack for Impact actually actively uses OKRs. This was in their nationals notion. And, one of their objectives is to be able to measure the impact of the organization better. But it's really hard to do that when, there's so many chapters across the nation. And also, like, how do you quantify impact? It's kind of weird. So they did that by, okay, defining what are the key results. And the key results that they determined were, creating a method for tracking completed projects after delivery, which we will be involved with, and I'll give more detail on that in the next meeting, and establishing the project adoption rate. And another quantifiable thing is creating a centralized database of at least 80% projects. So stuff like that. And again, there's a link for like more examples, but yeah, it's just very helpful in breaking down a big idea or ideas that may seem really hard to achieve, but if you have quantifiable goals, it's not that bad. And so they're pretty important because they are industry practice. It has been normalized through like big companies like Google and like Intel, stuff like that. It pushes team to improve in performance and achieve long-term goals, as opposed to like, the constant sprint pace. It's really focused on the big picture of like how we can improve the longevity of the team and the overall like kind of impact. And in a way, it also helps with weekly assessment and ensures the progress of the team aligns with the PRD, because it helps keep the team on track. And it also helps assess, maybe assessment with the tech leads and the designers, as you guys will probably be meeting separately in different meetings along development, but it can help with seeing what is going well, what can be improved with the sprints, and what should be done in the future to achieve a certain goal. Okay, so that being said, that was a little, tidbit about industry practice of OKRs. And then I noticed that like we are kind of throwing these terms around of like sprints and also Kanban boards, which I will talk about more later. But I thought we'd just take some time to go over some organizational tools that'll be really helpful in PM's experience, and also just define what sprints are, because I realize not many people may know like what sprints are if they aren't in comp sci and all that. But so, which is no, I was avoiding eye contact. But it's totally fine. But sprints are like, so sprints are also referred to as scrum sprints, which I did not know, but turns out it's from the game of rugby. The scrum part is referencing rugby to stress the importance of working as a team in a complex product development. I know nothing about rugby, but I thought that was cool because yeah, it is a team sport, a lot of strategy going on, and sprints are very team oriented, and it involves a lot of communication in a fast-paced environment. So sprints are short, repeatable time phrases where the team works to complete a set amount of work. In this context, the developers will be doing 2-week sprints where the tech lead will like kind of give tasks for the 2 weeks. They have the 2 weeks to kind of go through it, try to complete it, ask for help and all of that. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, they just get a new set of tasks, and then the cycle repeats. And then it's very common practice, and it's very pretty like fast paced, and it's very popular because it's helps with the Agile methodology, which is another term that gets thrown around. But basically, Agile refers to being the process of having an iterative delivery of product features instead of trying to like being like do all of it and then push it all at once. We kind of focus on making deliverables faster so that we get feedback more often, and it's like a constant cycle of, again, like more continuous involvement from the client. So yeah, more feedback, and also adapting through any changes, because making long-term goals isn't, or having long-term tasks is kind of hard with the quarter system, and like we all have busy schedules. So keeping that 2-week sprint is the most, I don't know, the best compromise, I'd say. But yeah, that's what sprints are. So that's what developers do. And then in these 2-week sprints are also when PMs kind of communicate or maybe do a meeting with the nonprofit, and also just like check up on whether or not their sprint progress is matching up with the product development timeline or product roadmap. And yeah, that's also an option for product roadmaps. You can organize it by dates or by sprints, and that option is totally up to you. And another term is a Kanban board. I'm pretty sure that's what they're called, but they're basically tools for workflow visualization. They're more interactive online software tool, and it depicts work at various stages of a process using cards and columns to organize them. And I think it's a really helpful tool to visualize, the progress, promote focus. I guess it boosts productivity, and it also increases visibility of how much work is done and how much is left. And there are a lot of websites that help with making these. A lot of the most popular ones are GitHub, which you kind of went over in the tech stack, Notion, which is, what we use a lot now, and then Jira and Trello, which are also very useful. So I know a lot of people tend to stick with GitHub and Notion, but it's totally up to your preference. And as a reference, this is kind of what they look like. And I bring this up now because I realize that, people also use Kanban boards for organizing OKRs, like in the top left here. This is an example in Notion. And as you can see, it kind of organizes what's in progress and then what's complete. And you can also have more detail within clicking in these cards. And then when the actual sprint development timeline, they'll probably use like a GitHub Kanban board. And then this is what it looks like. I used this screenshot or image before, but yeah, it can get very detailed or very like minimal and clean. It's really up to the team on how they organize their work, but definitely recommend checking these out, playing around with them, because you'll probably be involved with kind of organizing the progress of this data as well. And you should be able to kind of read what the progress is like. And yeah, that's kind of it. So what we went over were OKRs and some, basic recap of what sprints and Kanban boards are. We are done, and those are the resources that I used, and I will link them later. So we are done with kind of new content for Bootcamp. So congrats to everyone who got through it. And as a recap, our Thursday will be our second general meeting. So I really encourage everyone to please come in person if you can. That is when the majority of our nonprofit clients will be presenting, and you'll be able to see who they are, what their mission is, and kind of a broad idea of what their ideal product is. And it's really important for PMs because PMs will be able to select their preferences before everyone else. And we will be sorting or assigning you to a nonprofit shortly after. And then after the general meeting is one more bootcamp session where we will be going more in depth of kind of what are the next steps and kind of what kind of step by step of what your first call should look like, so you aren't like too overwhelmed, and also what the product development timeline will be. And then after that is a guest speaker, which I strongly encourage you all to attend. It will be super cool. It's a real industry professional from, can we say, Goldman Sachs? Woo. Okay, but yeah, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to the rest of the fall quarter, and I hope to see everyone on Thursday. But thank you all so much, and have a great day. I'm gonna